Get ready. Helena Hustle is now live. Here, we will showcase successful leaders in business, athletics, healthcare, and all things that make Helena a great place to live. Join Dr. Daniel Bridge, owner of Endurance Chiropractic, as he searches out amazing individuals who are making a tremendous difference in this place we call home. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired with the Helena Hustle podcast.
And do you know that she actually, I've taught for 32 years, missed like one performance?
Whoa. Huh.
So she continued to come to all the performances, and now full circle, her little girl dances with me.
Oh, cool.
So her little girl just turned 3. So she started this fall.
So you've been teaching for 32 years.
At my studio in town, 35 years.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So I started out at a different school. And then I didn't really want to, but I started my own studio. And the reason I didn't want to is because I had just started a family, and I didn't want to be in the studio all the time.
Right.
But when I grew up in dance, because I grew up in Helena.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Dance was a challenge financially.
Sure.
And we were farm family and didn't have a lot of money, but I had childhood epilepsy.
Oh, gosh.
And so I had some coordination issues. And so my parents put me in dance to help with that.
Oh, wow.
And then as we got older and finances were tougher, I used to clean the studio floors to pay for lessons.
Oh, wow.
And sometimes we lived all the way out by the causeway. I would bike to town in
How long
high
did
school.
that take you?
About an hour.
Okay.
I would bike into town from like rehearsals and stuff. If there wasn't a car heading into town in the family, I had to bike.
No kidding.
And so...
did you do that in the winter too?
So there were times there were snow, but never like super, super cold. No.
Okay.
So maybe, like 35 would be the coldest.
My dad talks about that a lot because
Yeah.
like it cracks him up that kids want to ride to go a block or two.
Yeah.
And he said, when he was a kid, he would just leave. He'd walk miles and miles to his friend's house on Christmas Day, see what they got for presents. He said one time it was a snowstorm. He just got dressed and left, and a guy on a horse gave him a ride back.
Yeah.
So
and
he's
the
from a
thing
small
is,
town.
I don't look at it as, well, that's the way my life was. You have it so easy. It's just the way it was.
Yeah.
I didn't
Things change.
think anything about it. So I have mad respect for the studio I taught for at the time. No diss, but I just there needed to be a studio that was different. Not having required dancewear was really important to me because some families can't change. They don't have the money to change the outfit each year. And sometimes they need hand-me-downs. I also wanted parents to watch because I understand that parents can be a distraction. I do get that. I've experienced that for the 32 years I've taught. But parents need to see how their kids are interacting with other kids, how they're handling stress, how they're handling learning environments. That's how we're a community. That's how we're a team raising these kids. They say it takes a village, but if your village isn't in the studio with you, how do they know what that child is missing?
Right.
And a lot of times I'm happy to sit with those parents and say, here's what I think your child is missing, and here's how you can enhance that. But then likewise, the other is true. I've had parents go, oh, my child is so far behind and my child is this. And I'll be like, really? I think they're just great. This is what this turns into. I've been doing this long enough. I've taken plenty of kids from 3 to 18 in my 35 years to know that this personality turns into something pretty amazing. You just have to be patient and you have to nurture it in the right ways. Well, you can't do that if the parents aren't watching. And I do have to say, COVID was really a game changer for me in the sense that for 2 years, parents didn't watch. And now when parents come into the studio, they are utterly quiet. Before COVID, I had a little bit of a noise problem, especially in the younger classes.
From the
parents and the siblings.
Just visiting and
yeah. Now those parents just sit and they're utterly quiet. And I don't know if it's just because I could change the culture after 2 years, or if it's because parents appreciate that opportunity more now that, after having not had it. So those were some of the things that were really important to me. Also at the time, it was pretty systematic that dancers had to have a certain body type.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had that body type. I have always been a very muscular, beefy girl. So I never fit into the traditional dance persona. But I could still love it. And I mean, here, I made a whole career out of it. The skinny girls didn't. I did.
Yeah.
So why are we taking those opportunities? Why are we discouraging girls after a certain age when they get into their real bodies and it's not a perfect ballet body?
So that's a thing.
Oh, it's a huge thing.
I mean, I know, like, I guess, so let's talk about that. Because I guess I assumed that would happen in New York or at these big dance schools where people just naturally got weeded out.
No.
So teachers are actively discouraging, say, hey, maybe this isn't for you.
Right. And I did notice that one studio in town has changed since our early years, and they do allow the bigger dancers. But back when I started my studio, there was no place for bigger dancers to go.
So not only were they discouraged, but they were actually not even allowed.
Well, no, I don't think they were ever not allowed. It's just that when you don't get picked for certain parts over and over and over,
what's the point?
What's the point? Exactly.
Sure.
The other thing is, I don't like traditional, like Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, Cinderella. I think this generation needs their own things. So I've never done those. My performances are wildly different. I even take twists on stories. I never make the stories about the girl being saved by the prince. In fact, when we did Snow White, the dad saved her, not the prince. So I guess I do add a little bit of that feminist cause into what I do, which I don't think it's not in your face. I don't think people really notice or probably care, but I do, because it's the message you send to these kids at a young age. So in the 32 years I've been teaching, I've never duplicated a performance.
Wow.
So I've done over 50 original performances. And I've done things like the journeys of Lewis and Clark. So the audience learns about the story of Lewis and Clark through dance. Last year we took Dale Chihuli's glasswork from the Pacific Northwest. And he has these amazing museum and glasswork in Tacoma and Seattle, Washington.
I'm not familiar with that.
Oh, well, actually, his artwork's all over. If you go to Rochester to Mayo Clinic, his artwork is in the halls of Mayo Clinic. They're just hanging from the ceiling. They're brilliant.
Neat.
So I went and did some research and took pictures, and we acted out his sculptures. The Enchanted Highway in North Dakota. We did the sculptures of Enchanted Highway. So for years, I've just taken things that we experience that are in front of us all the time and integrate it with dance. And I think that the classics are wonderful, and I know I would make a ton more money if I did the Nutcracker, but why? and yes, I have a performance coming up in 2 weeks, and I'll have maybe 400 people, but if I did the Nutcracker, I'd have 1,400.
Would you really?
But why? And my dancers always talk about how much they love learning. So like on November 11th, we're doing a story, or our performance is called Storytellers. Now, if you don't like dance, come for the soundtrack, because it is amazing. But I just went back and got Bob Dylan and Joni Mitchell and Fleetwood Mac and Stevie Nicks, and we're doing music that anybody will love.
This is on the 11th.
This is on the 11th.
Where is
at the Helena Middle School.
Okay.
And it's on we have a 2:00 and a 7:00 performance. And tickets are $15 for adults. And then for kids, students 3 and up, and anybody that has a student card, so even adults if they're students, seniors, which is anybody who admits they're a senior, and military/veteran, because that is Veterans Day, they all get a $10 ticket.
Cool.
So, but yeah, it'll just be fun. I mean, there is no way you can't enjoy it. Now, this one doesn't really tell a story, although we'll be sharing some bits and pieces about the lives of the musicians. But just what a fun thing. A lot of these kids haven't heard these songs, but their parents and grandparents are going to be like,
they'll light up.
Love this.
Yeah.
Let's do more of this.
Yeah. I want to go back. I've got a few questions for you, but let's do the 2 truths and a lie.
Okay.
You mentioned you're prepared.
All right. So, first thing, I'm a pretty avid Mount Helena hiker. And in fact, there's been several times in my adult life where I've done over 100 straight climbs. Okay, that's the first one. Second one is I've got some pretty good luck with the lottery, a Montana Scratch. And I have won 2 pretty big amounts, both from the same convenience store. Third one is I'm kind of a MacGyver. I can find crazy fixes for weird things in the spur of the moment.
Okay. I'm going to say you are a MacGyver. So we're down to Mount Helena and the Scratchers. I'm going to say the Scratchers is the lie.
It is.
Is it?
I don't think I've ever played the lottery.
Never played? You made it believable with same place, very specific.
My husband used to work for the Legislative Audit Division. So when we were first married, we couldn't do the lottery.
Okay.
And I've never been a gambler.
Yeah.
But anybody who knows me knows I'm a huge Mount Helena climber. So,
okay.
Yeah.
There's a video of a guy who he won a big scratch, like $1 million. And the video crew wanted to recreate it. So they had him go back to the convenience store and buy it so they could film all this and then picture him scratching it off. And he won again, like over $100,000, something like that.
Yeah, I've never actually won any time. Like sometimes people give them to you as gifts and stuff, and I've never even won. But my fun story about MacGyver, I was raised on a farm.
Okay.
And
what kind of a farm?
A dairy farm. So I always joked that I know how to put anything together with twine, silver duct tape, and shoe glue.
Oh, nice.
But just a couple years ago, my dad was raking the hay, and the chain broke, and we didn't have a pin for it. He didn't know what to do, and I said, "Well, Dad, there's a twist tie from that bag I just gave you." So I took a twist tie off and fixed the chain with the twist tie. And as far as I know, it's still holding that chain together. But it's kind of a funny thing. Even at the studio, we joke about how I'm the person you want in an emergency. And I don't know what it is, but it's just this crazy thing that I can do. Like I can picture the surroundings, picture the problem, and find a temporary fix or sometimes a permanent fix. And so, yes, I'm called the Lady MacGyver.
Nice.
So
that's
there
a
you go.
good skill to have.
Yeah.
So when you started dance, you mentioned your parents did it kind of as a therapy for epilepsy. Was that helpful for you?
Well, I don't know. I don't think I'm the most graceful person, but I think what it helped most is that our family was in turmoil. My parents were getting a divorce, and all of a sudden there were 6 kids. And then dance sort of became my thing. I didn't have to share with all my siblings. And I don't know. There was just something that clicked in it for me.
Instantly, or did it take a while?
Oh, no, instantly.
Oh.
I remember the first time I put on a pair of pointe shoes, I'm like, where have these things been? Love them. And anybody who's been on pointe shoes know there's nothing to love about pointe shoes, right?
Was this a ballet school that you went to?
Well, so I started out with Trudy McDonald, and I do that shout out because a lot of people know who she was.
Okay.
And so she had a little dance studio at the YWCA in the basement. And I danced with her in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And then in 6th grade, and she did like combination tap, jazz, ballet. And then in 6th grade, I started taking from a lady who left within a year. And we did that up in the Algeria Shrine Temple. And then a lady named Pam Copley took over for her. And then we started dancing behind the base camp in a building back there. There's a church there now. That burned down. Then we went to the Civic Center. They have a little room up in the top. We danced there for a year or 2 while they built the building. And then we went back there. But it wasn't really like a dance school. At the time, that whole area was called the Helena Movement Center. So different teachers just taught at the facility. But it wasn't like, and there wasn't a name. And I danced with Pam until I graduated. Thought I would go off and dance. I went to the University of Utah to dance, but then my body size got in the way. And it became a little discouraging.
That's sad.
And so then I kind of floundered a little bit and came back to Helena. I moved to Seattle for 4 years, came back to Helena and hooked up with a dance school here and found out that teaching was my thing. Because when I started dancing with Pam, the thing is I had to walk from either Helena Middle School or Capitol High to dance behind the base camp every day I danced. And so on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, when I would go up to Pam's, I would help her teach the classes ahead of me. And so I would just stand in front and do the exercises so the kids could watch me.
Mm-hmm.
So I got really good at understanding teaching, but I also got really good at technique. And I just found that that's sort of my jam. I'm an introvert. And so kids love me because kids love that. There's like nothing fakey and phony. I'm just really straightforward, which a lot of adults don't like, but kids love it.
Right.
So I have a great relationship with kids. And even if I have problems with their parents, I don't with the kids, and the parents just usually leave us alone and let us have our relationship.
Real quick timeout. All of a sudden I have this bad feeling that I didn't hit record on my video. Recording now, and I guess it'll be audio for the first.
What's that?
It wasn't recording the
Oh.
video, so I guess it'll be audio for the first half, and then
Okay.
the video will pick up.
That's fine.
Sorry, Pam.
That's-
but the video's the audio's recording, which is
That's
the main
probably
thing,
pretty
so.
good for me. I'm not an in the front of the camera kind of person.
You're doing great.
It's not my thing. I'm like I said, I'm a pretty stand in the background kind of person. I'm a take charge person.
That's an interesting combo.
Yeah, like I can take charge, but I don't want to be the center of attention. I don't want, like people think, because I get up on stage and talk, and I have no problems, and I have no problems talking one-on-one. So, but a lot of people find it very off-putting because it looks like I'm very outgoing, and I've taught fitness classes for years.
Oh, okay.
But I'm really not. It's like I need a recharge after having those experiences. They're very emotionally, draining for me.
I can relate to that.
But with kids, I just don't have any problems.
And they love that.
Yeah. And I also don't really get sarcasm and passive aggressive. It's not something I deal with, and I just don't really always see it coming. And because I don't do it, kids, they don't get it either. And when people use passive aggressive or sarcasm on kids get very confused, and then the relationship becomes confusing to them because they don't know what you really mean. Well, kids always know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's another reason why I tend to have really good relationships with kids, is because I'm a straight shooter. And also, once something's said, it's done. We don't keep talking about it. We don't drag it into the next interaction. It's just done. And I think that's why sometimes adults have a hard time with me, is because they're just not used to that. And it's disarming. It's disarming because sometimes I can come across as very abrupt and a little unfriendly, but it's just, you kind of get what you get, you know? And I always tell the people that have a tough time with me, don't you like that? Like
Right.
you don't have to worry about what I'm saying behind your back or what's going on in the back of my head, because I just spewed it all out for you.
Yeah, it's refreshing. I had a cousin, and he would always say whatever was on his mind, and I loved it because I could ask him if I needed a real opinion.
Yeah.
And same thing. It's like I never wondered what he felt. I always
Well,
knew.
I think people trust you, and so you have the genuine relationships that way, because people do come to you with those moments.
Yeah.
But then when they don't want the truth, they avoid you like the plague. Right?
Yeah.
And, I've had enough experience in my 32 years that a lot of my predictions about how kids' adult lives will go after dealing with them have been pretty spot on.
Interesting.
Pretty spot on. I guess that's another one of my MacGyver techniques, is being able to see how it goes. And not that any of it's good or bad. It's just different. It's just very different.
Right.
So to me, I just, like I always tell my families, there's no such thing as a bad kid.
Sure.
There's just not. There's just kids that need different things that we're not figuring out yet. And if we give them grace and support, they're going to find their thing, and then they're going to launch into a really amazing adult life. But we try to mold them so much that things sometimes they get lost. So I think that's the thing, is I don't really feel like I'm just teaching dance.
That's what I was going to ask you. What do you feel like you're teaching?
I just feel like I'm teaching the whole child. Their emotional well-being, their problem solving, their stress, how they handle stressful situations, how they interact with each other. But yet we're teaching dance too. And there have been some critics who have said, well, I'm only paying you to teach dance. And I'm like, well, there's quite a few other dance schools. Go for it. Because I don't know how to teach without teaching the whole child. And I think it's really important because, seriously, how many people do you think in Helena, Montana dance and go dance professionally?
Small number.
Very small. Very small. And when I say professionally, I mean big time. There's some who do it in regional places, which, that's very admirable. But why are we just focusing on the dance aspect? And a lot of these people who go dance professionally, when they get into the real world of how cruel the dance world can be, they're done. Because even if you have a really strict instructor, it's not going to prepare you.
Right.
So why are we just focusing on the dancer? Why not, I mean, I get letters probably several times a year from students saying, I learned so much from you helping me with navigating this or that or whatever else.
That's got to feel nice.
Well, it does, because at the time they sure didn't like it.
Right.
Right? They didn't. But luckily their parents trusted me and saw my I guess mission, and believed me enough to keep their daughter in dance. Because if you ask an advanced class, and my advanced class are my high school girls, how many of you have thought about quitting once? Everybody's hands go up. Twice, their hands are still up. 3, 4, 5, their hands are still up. What makes us not quit something that's really good for us and that we're kind of passionate about when we hit those road bumps? A family who says, no, you're not quitting this. Because some days I want to quit being a mom and I can't do that.
Right.
So let's figure this out, right? We teach our kids to work through those. And there are times that you should quit. Definitely. I can see that coming from some dancers and go, yeah, this is not your thing. I won't tell them that because they need to figure it out organically, but then I'll really support them. And if I see a dancer's name in the newspaper, or if I see that they've done something well and they used to dance with me, I fire off a congratulations. I still stay in their lives.
Cool.
As long as I can still recognize them, because they grow up and I don't recognize them all the time. But I just think that raising the whole child is really, really important. And that's sort of my mission. And it doesn't have to be everybody's mission. See, this is what I think is so great about Helena for families that have little dancers. We have some really amazing dance schools in this community, and every one of us is completely different.
Oh, wow.
So we're not competing with each other.
Right.
And the beauty is, if someone doesn't like my style, they can come tell me. Cool. Let me tell you what school would be the better school for your child to go to.
Right.
Because I'm not competing with them. And it's not in the best interest of your child to stay at my studio.
Got to find the right fit.
Right. Because we're raising the whole child. And them staying with me is not necessarily raising them to be the person they're supposed to be. So I just think that this town is very, very lucky, because there are a lot of good options in town for dancers. And when each new dance school came up, didn't affect my numbers at all. I have my own tribe, my own group of people that want what I'm selling. And
there's room for everybody.
Yeah, there is. COVID, that's the thing that kicked me.
Yeah.
It did. So, and it kicked all of us.
It did, right.
Yeah. So, and I'm still rebuilding from that, and I think all the dance schools are. So,
where are you located?
So, I am just off of McHugh, so I'm about 2 blocks down from Four Georgians on Barney Street.
Okay.
So it's right behind the Helena Athletic Club, across the street from Morrison Merrily, and just behind Ptarmigan Square here.
Okay.
So, just pretty close to Four Georgian School off of McHugh. Yeah.
If somebody was considering putting their daughter in dance, what sorts of things, what sorts of questions should they be asking themselves?
Well, the biggest questions I get are, how much does it cost? Do you have required dancewear, which I do not? Can parents watch, which they can? A a lot of them ask if the little kids are in the performances, because that's a big question. Now, my performance on November 11th is only second grade on up, but in the spring, everybody participates, and it's not separated little kids and big kids. The little kids are part of our family, and they are part of our performance. So we'll be doing our spring performance on May 11th, and that'll be all ages. And then just making sure that the time commitment, the hour that or hour and a half, however long your class is, works in your schedule. Because if your child comes to dance stressed, they're not going to get anything out of it.
Right.
So just making sure the schedule works.
Did you say 3 is the youngest?
3.
3 to 18?
To high school, pretty much, yeah. In the summer, I have some really amazing summer camps, and I do take kids at 2.5 in the summer camps.
Oh.
So.
And that's like a week long.
Yeah, exactly, in the summer.
And so if someone joins, is it, you mentioned hour and a half, is that weekly?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my dancers, I don't ask for the time commitment that a lot of dance schools ask for. So my preschool through second grade is an hour. And then it goes to an hour and 15 minutes and then an hour and a half. You only have to come multiple times a week once you want to start getting ready to dance on point, which is on your toes. Then you have to commit to multiple classes a week. No dancer at my studio has to take more than twice a week, but there are options for them too. And I do creative movement, pre-ballet, and ballet. So I don't do the tap and jazz because I'm the only person that teaches at my studio.
Okay.
So I don't have people working for me, and I don't do the tap and jazz. So you'd have to go to a different school for that.
So how many classes do you teach in a week?
I think 17.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow, that's busy.
And then I do all my rehearsals and choreography. I do all my own choreography. I do all the costuming.
So you're working a ton behind the scenes.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I can't imagine what it goes into to choreograph a performance.
Well, and I think that's why I like doing originals, because it's invigorating. Like, I love it. I love coming up with these crazy brained ideas and saying, how can I make this work? And I can't tell you how many times I've started it and gone, what did I get myself into? Right? But it is super, super fun and exciting. And I love that creative juice flowing. By doing that, it's less of a chore and more of a joy. By taking
versus here's the blueprints, make it happen.
And not only that, but when I choreograph for that group. Like, I couldn't necessarily take that same choreography and give it to a different group because I created it for that group. I created it for those specific girls. So, yeah, I think that's why even the behind the scenes, days get long and there's times where you're like, oh, good Lord. But for the most part, I'm loving every minute of it.
That's good.
Because I'm using my creative juices, and I always think, what are the girls going to learn from this? And they get kind of excited. I mean, there's sometimes where they don't see my vision, and then once they're in it, they're like, oh, this is so amazing. So
that's neat. I'm glad that you're able to find your passion
in
life.
Well, and it makes it really tough because it's like retirement. And my husband, who is retired, is like, honey, retirement?
Yeah. When are you going to join me?
And so I always tell him, you got to work till you were 65. I get to work till I'm 65. And he's like, oh, darn.
Yeah. That's neat. Okay. So, Beth, if somebody wanted to learn more about your school, reach out to you, how do they find you? Well,
allegrodance.net is my website. And it pretty much lays everything out, including what we do in each level, the rules, which I don't really call them rules, I guess guidelines is best. So all that's on that website. I don't have a place to register online because I sort of like to talk to people and make sure this is a good fit for them. So generally they call me, or they can send in the registration form, because you can download it, but you have to mail it in. You don't do it online. And so, they just look online and make sure that the class times work. And I actually right now, I have openings in most of my classes, not a lot, but a few. So, and we don't do it in semesters like some schools. You can start and stop anytime at my studio.
Okay.
So you don't have to wait until January. You could start now if you wanted. Yeah.
Great.
So.
Well, thank you for sharing all of this with us.
Yeah.
Good luck on November 11th.
Thank you.
That's exciting.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Helena Hustle Podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Helena Hustle Podcast.